So, yeah, you all know, I'm Kimberly of Indra Holistic Health, and Ayurveda transformed my health over, gosh, now it's over 25 years ago, when I first encountered it. And I struggled with chronic health issues for a very long time, most of my childhood into young adulthood. And with a few simple, easy, free changes, my reality completely transformed. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing Ayurveda with other people. I want everyone to experience that transformation and freedom and sense of well-being and connection with our body and empowerment around taking care of our health. And one of the ways that we can do that is with these preventative measures that Ayurveda teaches us about, such as seasonal cleansing in the spring and in the fall. And so, this is why I lead 10-day online group cleanses at those times of year. This is just considered to be important housekeeping that we do. It's recommended that all healthy adults cleanse twice a year to just kind of clean out the gunk and refresh, recommit to healthy habits, realign with the season and nature, give our nervous systems a little reset, give our digestion some reinvigoration. And so today I want to teach you about how we do an Ayurvedic spring cleanse. So my goal is for you to learn a little bit about what Ayurveda is, if you don't know, why spring is such an important time to cleanse, what an Ayurvedic cleanse is about, how it's unique and different from other cleanses you might have experienced, signs that the body might be asking for a reset. So how we know we really could benefit from a cleanse. I'm going to share a few simple daily practices that you can start doing right away. And I'll also share a bit about how my upcoming cleanse works, my upcoming group cleanse works, if you want to do cleansing with support. Uh, so a little bit about Ayurveda. It's the traditional medicine of India and considered to be one of the oldest written systems of medicine in the world. So it's been around for a long time, stood the test of time. Ayurveda was intuited, observed by, they say that Ayurveda has been being practiced for as long as people have been alive because we've been observing nature and observing ourselves in connection with nature. And so this was long before profiting from
Yeah.
medicine was a thing. And I'm just going to mute everybody here so we don't get any sounds. So yeah, Ayurveda traces back, well before there was any kind of business around medicine. And the goal is to empower you to be able to understand your body and what it needs, what it's asking for, and keep yourself healthy and not be in need of medical intervention as much as possible. And then, when we do get off balance, which happens to the best of us, Ayurveda gives us some real structure and a framework for what we need to do to get back on track. So it's an observational science at its core. And rather than only looking at the body through like lab markers or microscopic analysis, Ayurveda looks at the whole picture of a person's life, what they eat, how they sleep, where their stress load is, what they are taking in through their senses, what their habits are day to day, what their environment is like, their climate, the environment of their house, their living situation, their working situation, all of that. And how all of this, all these different factors are affecting the body and the mind. So Ayurveda teaches, like I said, preventative healthcare. And as much as it teaches healthcare, ideally we prevent imbalances from happening in the first place. And health, according to Ayurveda, isn't just the absence of disease. Health is feeling balanced, grounded, clear, steady, at home in ourselves. So, yeah, just like the definition of health, according to Sushruta, one of the great Ayurvedic teachers, who wrote the Shushuta Samhita, he says, yeah, like the last description, the last line in the definition of health is to be well situated in oneself. So that, yeah, we feel like we're aligned, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, and we're comfortable in our bodies, we're comfortable in ourselves. Ayurveda helps us understand how the elements in nature show up in our bodies. So, because we are composed of the five elements, space, air, fire, water, and earth, just as the world around us is composed of those five elements as well. Anything that exists is made up of the five elements. Everything that exists has its own concoction of those five elements. But we can think of in our bodies fire showing up as, when it's healthy, intelligence, good digestion, courage, focus. When it's imbalanced, it can show up as inflammation, irritation, sharpness, acidity. Earth shows up when it's balanced as feeling grounded, feeling strong, feeling consistent, reliable, strong bones, strong teeth. When it's out of balance, it can show up as sluggishness, congestion, dullness. Air, another element, shows up at when it's in balance, when it's healthy, as good communication, easy fluid movement, um, inspiration, creativity. When it's and healthy flow in the body, good circulation, good movement of food through the digestive tract. When it's out of balance, air can show up as anxiety, scatteredness, constipation, irregularity. So this is just a glimpse of, I'm not going to go into all the elements, but that gives you a little bit of a sense of the foundation that Ayurveda works on. Um, Ayurveda also helps us observe patterns and respond to them in a more intelligent way. So that's really, I think, one of the hallmarks and real gifts of Eastern medicine is that it zooms out and looks at the context. And from doing that, so when we look at the whole picture, the bigger picture, it's easier to find patterns in why things are happening, and so this allows us to trace back to the root causes of imbalance and then really address things from the root. And it also helps us with prevention because we can kind of predict if we're starting to see the beginnings of a pattern. Oh, we know from past experience where this is likely to lead. So there are three pillars of health in Ayurveda. The first one is ahara, which means basically right relationship with our food. So this is more than just what foods you're eating. It includes how you eat, when you eat, how much you eat, whether your body is actually hungry and ready to digest it. The second pillar of health is nidra, which is right relationship with sleep and rest. So rest is not just collapsing at the end of the day from exhaustion. Rest means restorative sleep. It means downtime, knowing when your body needs quiet more than stimulation. And these days, there's always the opportunity to latch on to stimulation. We've got easy access to it all the time. So it can be very tempting. Um, and we can probably all think of times, I'm guilty of it too, where I know I'm exhausted. I know my brain is done, but I'm still scrolling or watching or consuming or, talking to somebody on the phone or, just engaging with the outside world more when I know my body just needs to shut down. Um, and yeah, cleansing really supports this pillar too, because we address this overstimulation that we're all living under by reducing stimulation, which can helps the nervous system really settle. Everything we take in has to be digested, information, experiences, food, emotions, all of it. And much of how we take that in is through our five senses, right? Seeing, touching, tasting, hearing, feeling. And so the more activated those are, the more inputs we're giving it, the harder digestion has to work. And the nervous system too can stay kind of triggered as we're, bringing all that in. The nervous system has to balance that, has to try to maintain homeostasis with everything that's coming at it. So when we reduce stimulation, that really helps to settle the mind and allow the nervous system to recalibrate and come back to a state of calm more easily. And then there's brahmacharya. That's the third pillar of health. And that's right relationship with desire and pleasure. So, this is about having a healthy relationship with pleasure rather than being run by cravings, impulses, habits, constant stimulation. In modern life, this might look like food cravings, constant screen time, endless scrolling, shopping, snacking, chocolate, alcohol, marijuana, coffee, just always needing another hit of stimulation in one way or another. And an Ayurvedic cleanse helps us to reestablish a healthier relationship with desire by giving more space between impulse and action. We kind of take a step back from indulging all those cravings and look at our relationships with them. Look at our how our mind relates to them, how our body relates to them, and yeah, give ourselves a reset with these cravings and habits that we've fallen into. Many of us on autopilot, we just get up in the morning and we make ourselves a cup of coffee and we drink it, regardless of how we're feeling. If we're feeling anxious, if we're feeling dehydrated, if we just reach for it out of habit. Or at the end of the day, we just, pour ourselves a glass of wine to unwind, regardless of, if we're feeling inflammation, if we're feeling dehydrated, if we're feeling like really we just need to go to bed. And so through the cleansing process, we get to tune back in. We really go inward and listen to our bodies more deeply. And it's interesting reading about, back in the time of Hippocrates, cleansing was actually like a go-to practice at the first sign of illness. That would be the go-to approach. Just have the person cleanse, let the body's intelligence take over and reignite here before we do any dramatic interventions. Just get quiet and go inward. And a lot of times when we do that deep listening, if we're paying attention in the right ways, which is a big part of what Ayurveda helps us do, it helps us tune into our body and be more aware of its subtle cues. Then a lot of times it's clear what we need to do. We know there's a phrase, one of the main causes of disease in Ayurveda is prajnaparata, which basically means crimes against wisdom. When we know better, but we do it anyway. We know I should say, no, I need to rest tonight. I'm not going to go out. But we have FOMO, and so we do it anyway. Or we know we should say, no, I'm full. I don't want dessert, but it looks so good. So we have it anyway. And yeah, that gets us off track. The more we do that, the more off track we get with listening to what our body needs. And so cleansing helps us really reestablish that innate wisdom that we have in our body's innate capacity to heal in many cases, when we get quiet and go inward. And in the classic Ayurveda texts, that's a top recommendation also, that at the first sign of illness, it's basically the translation is the person should be with themselves. So, get quiet, stay home, look inward. What's going on here? You probably in the first stages of feeling off, feeling ill, you probably have a lot of insight as to how you got there. If you really get quiet and pay attention and listen to what your body is telling you. So cleansing empowers that aspect of ourselves in a really powerful yet gentle way. Because we overconsume more than just food, right? We are consuming information, noise, stress, social media, podcasts, emails, texts, conversations, work pressure, emotional stimulation. There's so much coming at us, advertising, you can't, yeah, there's just, and especially, you know, those of us that live in cities or very populated areas, like there's just constant action happening around you. Even if you are in your house trying to be quiet, there can be people walking by outside that are being loud and distracting from that. Um, and, our culture has normalized this and asks us to do so much in a given day. And so we're often eating while working or driving or watching something or listening to something or scrolling. We're like multitasking like crazy, like it's a superpower when really it's something that is ultimately negative, detrimental to our health and well-being. We take our in so much that we don't give ourselves time to digest experience, let alone digest our meals. We're just piling more on to the digestive system. So in Ayurveda, cleansing is not only about cleaning up our food, cleaning up our diets, that is a part of it. But it's also about reducing sensory overload and giving the mind and the nervous system less to process. And like I said, just a reminder, we consume with all five senses. So constant input creates buildup in the mind, just like overeating creates buildup in the gut. And we have one main digestive fire that's centered in our abdomen called Jatra Agni. And that main digestive fire is what fuels all digestion in the body. And so it has to process everything we take in. And when we inundate it with, constant stimulation, constant stuff to digest, digestion suffers, which makes sense. We burn it out. So this is how we accumulate undigested stuff in our body, which Ayurveda calls ama, which basically, I mean, it's technically the translation is undigested stuff, but we can think of it as like toxins, things that don't belong there. They haven't been integrated and used by the body, but they're just kind of hanging out, ready to make trouble. So, why do we cleanse in spring? Ayurveda traditionally emphasizes cleansing at this change of seasons, especially spring and fall. So spring is the season of thawing, melting, and movement after winter. Through the winter, many people naturally eat heavier foods, they move less, they sleep more, they spend more time indoors. We're just more sedentary, we're hibernating. So by the end of winter, the body may be carrying extra heaviness and it may show up in the form of congestion, mucus, sluggish digestion, sluggish energy, puffiness, brain fog, low motivation, excess weight. And as the weather warms up, the body begins to release what's been built up, what's been accumulating over winter. And cleansing really supports that process of release. So it helps the body clear winter buildup and move into the new season with more energy, clarity, and digestive strength. So spring and fall are particularly potent times to commit to cleansing. I want to talk a little bit more about this idea of ama, the toxins, the undigested stuff that builds up, and agni, our digestive fire. So, this undigested toxic buildup can come from food that hasn't been properly digested. It can also come from experiences, emotions, and stimulation that have not been processed. So, ama is what accumulates when digestion is weak, overloaded, or disrupted. It can, some of the common causes of ama, some of the common ways we get there are things like overeating, eating too often, eating when we're not hungry, eating poor quality foods like processed foods or preserved foods, eating heavy meals late at night when our digestion isn't very strong, poor hydration, low fiber intake. When we're not hydrated enough, when we don't have enough fiber in our system, those are things that help to flush the toxins out. And so when we're not getting enough of them, we can build up. Eating in a rushed or distracted way, digestion's not going to be strong if we're not focused. The same way, if you're trying to take in information, but you're doing five other things at once, you're not really going to take it in well. It's not going to be digested and integrated well. Not allowing the previous meal to digest before we eat again. So, like grazing all day. Chronic stress really detracts from our digestive strength because it puts us in fight or flight mode instead of rest and digest mode. Emotional suppression can also lead to this toxic buildup. Things like grief, things like anger, real feelings that, need to be moved through, that when we avoid doing that, they can kind of cause a backup and cause things to get stuck. And then, like I said, constant mental stimulation, constant input through our five senses, and a lack of quiet time. So, our digestive fire, agni, is not only the ability to digest food, it's also metabolism, transformation, clarity, discernment, the ability to process life, the ability to focus. Strong digestion means better digestion, better elimination, clearer hunger cues, better energy, clearer thinking. Weak or disturbed digestion means that things don't get fully processed and this ama starts to accumulate. So, an Ayurvedic cleanse reduces the ama and it also kindles and strengthens the digestive fire. So, the purpose is to both clear toxins out and to reignite that digestive fire to help the body digest, absorb, eliminate, and think more clearly again. So, some common signs that, like, how do you know if you have AMA? How can you tell, right? Some physical signs that point to accumulation of AMA are things like heaviness in the body, sluggishness, especially in the morning, low energy or a chronic sense of fatigue, congestion or lots of mucus, seasonal allergies, particularly in the springtime, puffy face or swelling in the body, waking up and you still feel tired, you don't feel rested, weak immunity, irregular appetite, complete loss of appetite, trouble sensing hunger and fullness, just being completely out of touch with when you need to eat. Never getting hungry or never getting a sense of full, bloating, gas, sluggish digestion, a thick coating on the tongue. If you look at your tongue first thing in the morning, that can be a good way to assess what's going on in the gut. And if there's a thick coating on there, that indicates ama from a digestive standpoint. That's one way like a subtle cue, subtle bodily clue that we can assess on a daily basis. And then, feeling weighed down after we eat. Eating should energize us and make us feel more alive and, ready to jump into action. If we're feeling wiped out and tired after we eat, that's a sign that AMA is accumulating and the digestive fire is weak. In terms of our mental and emotional signs that we might have AMA accumulating in the system, things like brain fog, confusion, difficulty focusing, feeling pulled in many directions, like that, ADD kind of vibe where you just can't, you feel like there's a million things going on in your head, overthinking, anxious, repetitive thoughts, difficulty turning the mind off, a lack of motivation, and just feeling stuck where you are, feeling apathetic, and just a general sense of feeling uninspired, just kind of dull or blah. These are all indicators, and there can be, I'm not giving you a comprehensive list of everything, that contribute is an indicator of ama in the body. But these are some of the most common ones. So, this oftentimes when we start to experience these things, it's not in the form of a dramatic illness. Like we just start feeling off. We just start feeling not like ourselves. We just start feeling a little bit down and slower and uninspired, but we're not, full out sick. We're maybe a little bit congested. We maybe have, a little bit of gas, a little bit of bloating. A little bit of low energy, a little bit of a difficult time getting up in the morning, a little bit of a hard time focusing in the same way that we used to. But, it's often the first signs of imbalance aren't like stopping you dead in your tracks. They're just a little bit of feeling off. And Ayurveda is helpful in that in between space when something feels off, even if it doesn't neatly fit into a diagnosis. Like you're not necessarily going to go to the doctor and they're going to tell you, oh, yeah, you have this. Um, Ayurveda, Western medicine kind of waits until we're at that point of crisis where it's something obvious and a full-blown disorder before it really has the tools and capacity to act. We get our wellness checkups once a year, and they do some testing, but that doesn't always pick up on these kinds of subtle things. But really, this is the time to act. When we start to just begin to feel off, that's when things are the easiest to rein back in. The longer that we let that go on, the more time it has to fester into a more debilitating disease or illness that's going to be more challenging to recover from. So, yeah, I feel like this is one of the most powerful aspects of Ayurveda. A way in which it empowers us to take charge of our health is these are the subtle cues to pay attention to, some of them. There's a lot more, but you know, so that we don't end up in an emergency room. We don't end up in an emergency situation. We have tools to respond to these subtle cues and get ourselves back into a place of well-being again. And one of the ways that we do that is through this cleansing process twice a year. And even if we don't have many or all or any of these symptoms, Ayurveda still recommends doing the cleanse in the spring and in the fall. Um, and so, what is involved in an Ayurvedic cleanse? Um, it's very gradual and food-based and habit-based, routine-based. It's gentle and nourishing, yet it's also thorough. I've had a number of folks who go through the cleanse and say, I've never felt that nourished on a cleanse. I've never felt that supported. Yeah, and that it's just a totally different experience. Ayurveda is not a big fan of extremes, generally speaking. There's a time and place for them occasionally, but we don't usually want to, go into starving ourselves or yeah, living on just juice or, water or something like that. We cleanse in a way that is going to support the body and staying even keeled. So we use simple meals and a supportive routine to do that. And this reduces the digestive burden so that the body can catch up. And it also gives the nervous system less stimulation. It creates enough space for the body and mind to process and reset, to kind of digest all the undigested stuff that's lingering in our system and come back to, a strong foundation, come back to home base, come back to our own innate intelligence by getting really quiet and letting that inner voice get louder. It creates a chance to step out of our habitual patterns and see what actually feels good, right? Does that kale smoothie actually make me feel good, or do I feel better when I'm having a warm, well-spiced breakfast? It's as much about habits and routine as it is about food. And it's a seasonal reset for the body, the mind, and the senses. So, we work to realign with the sun. We're diurnal beings. These are some of the ways that the habitual piece comes in. So we want to get on a good routine of waking with the sun and going to sleep with the dark. And for it that looks different for everyone. Not everyone's getting up at sunrise and going to bed at sunset or anything like that. But we it's a chance for us to kind of realign more carefully with those rhythms of the day that feed us. We're diurnal beings. We're meant to be awake in the daylight and be sleeping in the dark. Our digestion is strongest in the daylight when the sun is up, and weakest at night when it's dark out. So we want to be awake and consuming when our digestion is strong, and resting and sleeping when our digestion is weak. Um, and yeah, so these are some of the ways that, we work with the breath, we work with um, our hunger and getting back in tune with when we're actually hungry, listening to our hunger and letting that guide our food choices. Uh, and so there's many things that an Ayurvedic cleanse isn't that you might associate with the word cleanse, that I want to just lay out. So it's not starvation. You get to eat as much as you're hungry for. You just eat very simple, wholesome foods. I give you the recipes, I give you shopping lists. There's vegan, vegetarian, and non-vegetarian options. I help you customize the menu and the routine in a way that it's going to work for you so that it feels realistic and doable for you. People do these cleanses, the group cleanses and, at home cleansing themselves, even when they're working, when they have kids, we don't want to wait until our life is totally chill and we have tons of space in it to cleanse, because chances are, um, by that time, there's going to have been a lot of buildup of these toxins. And when we really need it most is when it's less convenient for us to do. So making the time, taking that 10 days, or however many days you can do it for, to really be proactive and take care of ourselves, it prevents us from potentially having to take a month or 2 months or a year, down the road because we didn't take care of ourselves and things built up and got really out of hand. Um, so yeah, it's not starvation. It's not an aggressive fast. It's not punishment for what you've eaten in the past. It's not an all or nothing kind of crash program. Um, we're not juicing. It's not, you're not going to need a bunch of supplements or powders or meal replacement products. We're eating wholesome, real food. It's not about shocking our system or trying to force the body to do anything extreme. It's not, we don't want to, like, the day before the cleanse starts, binge on all the junk food we like and alcohol and caffeine and all that stuff, and then go into cleansing the next day. Or on the opposite end, as soon as the cleanse ends, jumping right back into junk food and fast food and stuff like that. It's a gradual, you know, taking those things out, eating more wholesome, and then gradually making our diet more diverse again. So, yeah, and also another thing people ask commonly is, am I going to be in the bathroom all day? You're not. That's not the point of this cleanse either. We're not doing some massive evacuation. And there's if you choose to do the group cleanse with me, there's different levels of how deep you can go in the cleansing process. So you have choice around, there's some deeper cleansing practices you can do to really flush out the system, but you can also just work with the dietary suggestions and routine habit suggestions, and people have really powerful experiences doing that. So the general structure of the cleanse, the first phase is, how do we do all this? The first phase is preparation. And with this, we reduce the things that are contributing to overload before entering the main cleanse. So we give the body and the mind a chance to begin adjusting. We start, and everyone gets to choose their own adventure. So there's different ways this can look like. Some of the ways it can look are cutting back on sugar, cutting back on alcohol, reducing caffeine, reducing heavy foods, snacking, reducing scrolling and media overload, information overload, noticing where we're overstimulated or where we're overindulgent, and looking at how we want to cleanse with those things that are inviting us to behave in that way. Um, so this phase isn't just about like discipline, but this is where we really begin to notice our habits. We just start paying attention to ourselves in a non-judgmental way, but just observing. We start noticing our habits. We start noticing where our emotions and cravings are arising from. And, that's part of the cleanse. That's in Ayurveda, we look at the whole context, the whole picture. And this is an important part to look at. Like, where are these coming from? What's driving them? Is it I'm stressed and so I'm reaching for cookies? Am I not getting the affection and the attention I need? And so I'm reaching for alcohol. Am I taking in too much news and not participating in solutions to, what I want to see happening? And so I'm just numbing out. We start exploring questions like this and looking at what's the driving force behind our different behaviors. So this preparation phase begins the process of changing these patterns. Um, and, a lot of people find that they're using food for stimulation, uh, or food or stimulation to avoid discomfort, boredom, stress, feelings they don't want to sit with, or maybe to avoid creating things that they know they want to create, they know they want to do. But yeah, for whatever reason, they're not making the time and space for that. So after the preparation phase, phase one of the cleanse, and this can be a few days, this can be a whole week, depending on what kind of time period you have to commit to the cleansing process. In the cleanse that I lead, this is the first couple days. We really spend simplifying and looking at these things. Then there's the cleansing phase. And so this phase two is geared toward lightening the digestive load. We want to increase the digestibility of our food. We want to really simplify what we're taking in. We want to improve our food quality so that food is fresh and homemade and wholesome. We also want to follow a good routine so that our body and our nervous system is feeling really supported in this detox process. Routine is of great support to the nervous system. So we create a routine that feels realistic and doable for us in the cleanse, and then we work to implement it and stick to it during the cleanse period. And so yeah, this phase is, ultimately helping the body clear what's building up and reignite the digestive fire. So this can look again different depending on the individual, but some of the things that folks tend to integrate during this phase are simple, easy to digest meals, um, khichdi or other warm, soft, simple meals, soups, broths, cooked vegetables, digestive spices, warm liquids throughout the day, less stimulation overall, a simpler schedule if possible, more rest, more quiet, more inward focus, and less social overload. Um, and what in the cleanse I lead, I give folks specific recipes geared toward doing this, specific herbal teas that will help this cleansing and detox process. Other Ayurvedic herbs you can integrate if you want to. Um, but yeah, the dietary suggestions that we're doing, generally increase our fiber intake, which helps to clear buildup from the digestive tract. Warm and cooked food is generally easier to digest than raw or cold or complex meals. So we simplify what our meals are made up with during the cleanse. We use digestive spices to support our digestive fire. So this phase should really feel nourishing. And we're supporting the body, not depriving it. So this is like, um, yeah, giving yourself a little extra buffer, a little extra care so that we're not as vulnerable to stress and overstimulation and depletion as we might be in our day-to-day living. And we're getting a really delicious, nourishing array of wholesome foods to take us through that phase. Then phase three, and so with that phase two can last 5 days, a week, depending again on how much time commitment you can make to cleansing. In my cleanse, that's the middle chunk of the cleanse is the longest phase of the cleanse is this um, cleansing phase. And then the last couple days in my cleanse, but again, it can be longer depending on what you have time for, is phase three, the reintroduction phase, and kind of like moving out into our regular life and out into the new season. So with this phase, we slowly reintroduce foods and our normal routine with awareness. We kind of decide what am I going to keep from the cleanse and what am I going to let go from the cleanse, habits I was using. Many people find that at least one or two habits, they're like, no, I'm committing to that. I want to keep that in my life. So we notice what really feels good, what really feels supportive for us, and we carry those helpful habits forward. So this phase includes noticing our digestion, our cravings, our energy, our mood, bringing more foods back in gradually, noticing how they affect our digestion because we've kind of cleaned the slate. We're a little more sensitive, but in a good way, where it's easier to see like when we eat something that isn't supportive to us, there's a clear connection there that, yeah, that makes me not feel good. I don't want to eat more of that. We're paying attention to what the body actually wants versus what our habits guide us to be doing. And we're, yeah, reflecting on which habits we want to take forward with us. So, the cleanse, we're not going to get the most out of cleansing if we just go right back into the same patterns without awareness. The purpose is to come out with more discernment and a healthier relationship to food and routine and pleasure and stimulation. So, this process, it matters beyond just what we're eating because when we remove things that we habitually reach for, we start to see what was underneath them. And we learn to notice craving without obeying it immediately. We learn that we can tolerate discomfort or boredom or desire without something being wrong. And this helps to build our clarity, our body awareness, our self-trust. It gives us more freedom in our choices and, you know, takes us away from just kind of running in these unconscious habits, just, being on autopilot. And this is part of why cleansing not only affects our digestion, but our energy, our mood, and our mental clarity. Um, so there's a few simple cleansing practices I thought I'd share to, yeah, give you some tools if you want to move forward with spring cleansing, what you can start doing now. So, tongue scraping is a simple morning practice that we can do before we brush our teeth. You can use a tongue scraper. They make, nice metal tongue scrapers, but you can even just use a spoon. And tongue scrapers are now very easy to find. But even just a spoon with the turned kind of upside down. So the concave part, the part where you'd normally be scooping, filling your soup in, is facing your tongue. And you just scrape from the back of the tongue. First, you look at the coating on the tongue to see what's there, what color it is, where on the tongue it is. That all can give us helpful information. And if you have a thick coating on the tongue, like I said, that's indicative of toxins building up. As you do the tongue scraping practice, you'll inevitably notice that the coating changes day to day. And so you can think about, like, what did I eat yesterday? If I do have a thick coating, what did I eat yesterday? Did I eat late at night? Did I eat really heavy foods? That we can start to make connections about what foods are causing a buildup in our system and maybe avoid those foods. So we scrape from back to front, and gentle. Like, we don't want to, it's not like we're scrubbing the tongue, but a gentle scrape gives a misleading sense of like intensity, but it should be very gentle, removing that coating off the top of the tongue. And you maybe do it like 10 times, scrape it off. And this helps remove the coating and the buildup from the tongue. It stimulates the digestive system. It gives insight into what might be happening in the digestive tract based on what the coating is like. It also improves our sense of taste. So we have more clarity in our senses. It freshens the breath. If you're somebody who feels like you have a bad taste in your mouth commonly, or your breath smells off, this practice can really help with that. And also just supports overall oral hygiene. So yeah, we can look for, a thick white coating indicates a lot of heaviness in the body. More yellowish coating often indicates there's heat and inflammation. A brownish coating indicates dryness. Um, and yeah, there's a lot of other subtleties with the tongue diagnosis that we can use as we build our body awareness through a deeper understanding of Ayurveda. And this is a lot of what I teach in like my one-on-one work with people. But the tongue can be used as one of these simple daily check-ins, one of these simple kind of self-assessments. And a heavy coating can be a sign that there's ama, undigested stuff in our system. Another simple practice that we can integrate to help promote cleansing is hot water first thing in the morning. Um, so, drinking warm water upon waking helps to restore hydration after night. It supports peristalsis and elimination. It encourages a morning bowel movement and helps to begin the day without immediately jumping to caffeine. Our system is dried out after sleep, and so we want to rehydrate it. And we're not drinking like gallons of water here, but like a nice big mug of it. Just helps to get the circulation flowing, bring warmth into the system. We tend to be colder when we wake up in the morning, and so it warms things up and gets things flowing and moving. Um, and warm water is Ayurveda is not a fan of cold food and drinks, especially iced drinks, and especially if there's sluggish, slow digestion. So warm water helps, like I said, to fire things up. We can add a little bit of lemon to it. That can be helpful for some people, especially if there's heaviness or sluggishness, or if they feel exceptionally dry. For people who tend to be hot and inflamed, lemon can sometimes be heating and not the best choice for them. So you can feel into that. But yeah, this is, there's in many ways, Ayurveda is about listening to our body. So this is one of the ways we can we can test little additions to our water and see how it feels. There's also a really great cleansing tea, cumin, coriander, fennel tea. And this is a simple tea made with equal parts of each of these seeds. So cumin seed, coriander seed, and fennel seed. You can find those easily at grocery stores. And this is one of Ayurveda's classic kitchen remedies to support digestion and detoxification. We can sip it ideally warm throughout the day, especially in spring. It helps to gently support digestion without being heating, which is kind of unique. A lot of things that stimulate digestion are heating. So this is a helpful support, especially for folks who tend to be hot and inflamed, because they can use it to support digestion without getting triggered. It encourages the body to flush out toxins. It's a bit of a diuretic. So if there's puffiness and swelling, it encourages the body to flush that out. It also can help reduce feelings of heaviness, bloating, sluggishness, supports clearing and lightening, making it really useful for springtime. And the way that we make it is we combine equal parts of cumin, coriander, and fennel seeds. I use about 1 teaspoon. So we combine equal parts of the seeds into a jar. Like I'll put 1 teaspoon of each of the seeds into a jar, shake it all up, and then take 1 teaspoon of that mixture per cup of water. So if I'm making like 1 serving of cumin coriander tea for myself, cumin coriander fennel tea for myself, I'll take a teaspoon of that mixture, add it to a cup of water in a pot, bring that to a simmer, and let it simmer for 5 to 10 minutes, and then strain it and sip it warm. You can even, let it steep for a little bit if you want to make it stronger. You can let it steep for 5 to 10 minutes after it's done simmering. But then you strain it and sip it warm. And you can make like a bigger batch of it if you want to reheat it throughout the day. So yeah, with this, like it shows these are easy herbs that you probably have in your kitchen already, and they can be powerful medicine to support cleansing and digestion. It doesn't have to be complicated. We don't need like an exotic tea with all these hard to find herbs to support cleansing. And this can be a nice daily ritual in spring that helps you feel lighter and more clear. So, um, yeah, those are a little taste of some of the practices that we integrate during the cleanse. And I just want to mention, the transformations that people commonly experience when cleansing. A lot of folks report better sleep, clearer thinking, more energy, feeling lighter in their body, shedding excess weight, more regular digestion and elimination, less congestion, relief from allergies, more stable in their mood, healthier skin, glowing skin, feeling more connected to their body, and uh, realizing that they'd been feeling worse than they thought before the cleanse when they come out and they're like, wow, I feel so good. I forgot this was like a baseline. I was just kind of trudging through feeling crummy for a long time. So yeah, those are some of the transformations that await if you choose to do a spring cleanse. And not every person needs the same version of the cleanse. Ayurveda isn't one size fits all. So we customize cleansing to work for us based on our constitution, our symptoms, our age, our strength, our life circumstances, all those factor into how we design a cleanse to really get the most out of it. Um, some practices might need to be modified. The goal is to really work with the body. And so if you want help in customizing a cleanse to, get the most out of it for your individual body, that's what I help you do inside my guided 10-day spring cleanse. Um, and for folks who have, you know, really complex health issues going on, it's important to seek guidance before you just go into cleansing. Um, but I want to invite all of you who are watching, you're obviously interested in spring cleansing. I'd love to have you join my 10-day spring cleanse if that feels like a good fit. If you want, support and accountability and professional guidance in creating a cleanse that's really going to work for you. My cleanse offers a really simple, real food approach, recipes, structure, daily practices. You get support and accountability through daily emails from me. We also have 4 live calls during the 10-day cleanse. So they're group calls, and we go over, how everyone's feeling, how everyone's doing. And I give you guidance as to what you might experiencing during each of these different phases of the cleanse and how we can work with that. So you've got that live support throughout it, which folks find really motivating and inspiring. You also have community. You've got a group of other people doing it alongside you. And we have a community group where everybody can share what's going on and um, yeah, just, their challenges, their breakthroughs, their discoveries, and we get to just support each other through that process and, share our different questions, and everybody gets to see the questions and the answers to those questions and to, learn more about the process and about themselves through that. You get guidance on, like I said, what to eat and how to move through the process. And yeah, it's a way to really commit, like, okay, I'm doing this and we're doing it as a group. Because this can easily be something like, oh yeah, I'll try to fit that into my schedule at some point soon, but I'm not sure when it's going to be. And then, it gets put on the back burner and we just don't end up doing it. So yeah, this cleanse is really the cleanse that I offer. I've been offering it for years now, and it was taught by my teacher, Dr. Vasant Lad. He's the one who, shared this method of cleansing with me. He's an Ayurvedic doctor from India who is credited with really bringing Ayurveda to the West. He's written all the textbooks on Ayurveda that everybody uses in Ayurveda school. And this is, his home cleanse that he designed and taught us how to use. So yeah, you get that, you know, professional structure and guidance throughout the process, and you don't have to be, wondering or doing it on your own. You get support along the way. So it's designed to be very doable in real life for folks who are busy and have a lot going on. And it's not about, being perfect or doing it like we do our best, we set our goals, we outline our plan, and we do our best to stick to it. And we don't beat ourselves up if we don't do it exactly right. We still get a lot of benefit from doing the process as best we can. We support each other, and that makes it easier to follow through. Many people report. And a lot of these practices, people stick with them long after the cleanse ends. The benefits don't have to end at the end of the cleanse. They extend well beyond. Um, so my cleanse kicks off on April 17th with a kickoff call. And that day we just kind of go over all the materials in the cleanse, everything that's available to you in your online classroom. And then you have the weekend to kind of plan out your cleanse and decide how you're going to do it and go grocery shopping, get all the supplies that you need. I'm available to give you guidance on anything you need in terms of designing your cleanse. That's a lot of what we do in that first kickoff call is I kind of like set up the framework for how to choose your own adventure. You get a full color workbook, like 75-page workbook to really walk you through setting your intentions for the cleanse and structuring your cleanse. So there's a lot of information and guidance that you have as easy reference. And then we officially start cleansing with that preparation phase on Monday, April 20th. And yeah, so it's meant to be very supported process. And I make sure you understand everything before we even get into it so that you don't feel overwhelmed or confused. And my cleanse is $97. Right now, because you're listening to this call and you get the early bird rate, which is $20 off the cleanse. And so you can use the coupon code EB Cleanse to get $20 off. And so that makes it only 77 bucks. And you can just go to indraholistic.com/cleanse and sign up right there. And as soon as you do, I'm going to put the link in the chat here. As soon as you do, you will get the welcome letter and you'll get access to your online classroom. You can look at all the materials that are in there. Everything's ready to go. So you can start reviewing it and planning your cleanse as soon as you sign up. If you want to do it now, I'm somebody who likes to like know well ahead of time. So it's all in there ready for you. And yeah, I'd love to have you join us and happy to answer any questions that anybody has. So if you're watching this recording, feel free to reach out and email info@indraholistic.com. And I'm going to stop the recording and invite everybody that's here live on the call to share their questions. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you. Okay.